When we're thinking about holistic, where this is like we are looking at your whole picture. So when someone uses that term, like we're looking at your stress levels, your sleep quality, how you move your body, your relationship with food.
Welcome to the Vibrantly You podcast. We're your hosts, Megan Martineau.
Caitlin Cipriano. In this podcast, we talk about fitness and nutrition on your motherhood journey. Whether you're trying to conceive, pregnant, postpartum, or beyond, you're welcome here.
Nothing is off limits, and our goal is to support you in this important season of life so that you can feel vibrantly you. As a reminder, this information is not medical advice. Please see the show notes for more details. Welcome back to the Vibrantly You podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about something really exciting, and I think that is really relevant for the times that we are in right now. So, if you have ever felt torn between following scientific nutrition guidelines versus trusting a more intuitive and holistic type practices, this is going to be the episode for you. We're going to be diving into how you can best combine these two worlds to really support your health during trying to conceive, pregnancy, postpartum, and into motherhood. So, Caitlin, let's dive into it.
Well, I'm really excited to chat about this because this is how I approach my practice. So often I see, on the internet that people feel like they need to be all or nothing with one or the other, either just like strictly following science or they're like way to the other and only trusting holistic practices, but they work so well together. Truly, you can really have this solid evidence-based foundation while also including these really beautiful holistic practices as well.
Yes, and I think that's such an important point that you can really blend the two together to be really supportive. And I just know, even for myself, like I have fallen into this trap as well of being like, which one do I do? When really you can combine the two of them together. And especially, I think, with social media and just how polarizing things can be, it's easy to feel conflicted and just not know what to do and to maybe be easily, I don't want to say persuaded, but kind of persuaded to go one way or another. And so I'm really excited for this episode because you've really just laid everything out in a really like easy to follow kind of like guide of like how to approach this. Um, so yeah, let's dive in.
Exactly. And I think you're so right. Like, I think the conflict really stems from this overwhelm and confusion, especially in this perinatal phase where your body is experiencing a lot of changes. We were talking about this before we started recording. You're just like onslaughted with information, and you're like, what do I eat? What do I not eat? What's like, is this a normal pregnancy symptom or is this something else? And so, my goal today is to really simplify this for women and show them that they can really have, again, this like solid evidence-based foundation while also being able to lean in, listen to your body, and include holistic practices as well that are unique for your own needs.
Yes, I love that. And I think too, like you said, like with pregnancy, postpartum, like it's just so overwhelming. The information is overwhelming. And especially when you are pregnant, you're going to see your provider. Like they do have limited time, to talk with you, and nutrition is not at the top of the list. So we are kind of left to like figure things out for ourselves, essentially. And also, like, you might not be feeling your best. Some foods are like not sounding great. So you're also just like, there's so much going on right now. I just like don't know what to do. But I also think, obviously, we're going to be talking about nutrition in this episode, but I also think it's worth mentioning that a holistic and scientific approach, like we're not just talking about foods, it includes so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're thinking about holistic, where this is like we are looking at your whole picture. So when someone uses that term, like we're looking at your stress levels, your sleep quality, how you move your body, your relationship with food, all of those factors impact your fertility, your pregnancy, how you recover postpartum. And those pieces are just as important as the like actual nutrients that you're getting from your meals. Like, yes, those things are important, but the whole picture does really matter. And so when we combine those pieces with what the research says, this is where people can really feel their best and feel confident as well, I think.
Yeah, I love that. So we're really, like you said, looking at the whole picture, really supporting your entire well-being, which is so
Yes.
important, especially in this stage of life where so many things are happening. You're going through such a major transition. It's really, really important. So let's break things down even further. So, can you explain what you mean by holistic nutrition and evidence-based nutrition, how they differ and how they complement each other?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, when we're thinking about holistic nutrition, we're really like considering the whole person in mind here. This is like their physical, emotional, and lifestyle factors. It's going to generally, include like emphasizing like whole foods and this like individualized care on that person. And then our evidence-based nutrition, on the other hand, is going to rely more on those scientific studies to guide the recommendations. And this is, I think, where it gets a little tricky in this perinatal space because it's still an area that is so like limited as far as research goes. A lot of studies that have been done, this like small percentage of them have actually been conducted on women themselves. A lot of it is like extrapolated data from men and like making presumptions of what that would look like onto a woman. So I want people to think of that in mind when we think about it as a picture. I wish I had pulled up the percentage of it, but it's pretty staggering of what that actually looks like. So the thing is that these two pieces work best when we integrate them. When we are working with someone who is trying to conceive, for example, we might use that, extra evidence on a folate supplementation. But then we're also going to look at incorporating a holistic strategy like supporting our central nervous system to reduce stress and syncing up their meals with their cycle for hormonal support. So all of these things can come together and work really nicely.
Yeah, I love that. And also, can we talk about the fact that that the research is done on men? That is horrible. I mean, it makes sense. It's nothing new. But like I think too there is like this ethical piece, right? Where like you can't test on pregnant women because you're potentially putting the fetus at risk. So, frustrating, but also makes sense. But also like you
Yeah,
said, like we kind of have to consider that too. That's a factor. I mean, even like recently,
absolutely.
like we learned that they weren't even testing period products with real menstrual blood, Like a lot of this
Yeah,
is ongoing and yeah. Okay. So,
absolutely.
let's dive in first to trying to conceive. So, how would you use this approach for someone who is trying to conceive?
Okay, so with trying to conceive, let's think about research first of a diet that we know is really nutrient dense and essential. So, a lot of times you'll see people bring up the Mediterranean diet, which is really high in antioxidants. And there's a study done in 2018 that I will link, and it was shown to improve fertility outcomes. So, this is from a holistic approach, really great because we are taking a diet that's high in antioxidants, which tends to help with our egg and sperm health. And so we've got so like science-backed support here, but then we can also, from a holistic approach, bring in lifestyle factors like reducing endocrine disrupting chemicals in your products. Can we incorporate bringing in stress relieving practices like yoga or walking, making sure you're getting good quality sleep? All of these things are going to be helpful in supporting your hormone balance and fertility. And as someone that works with people that are trying to conceive, we're talking about all of those things. We're talking about, yes, the nutrition and what you're eating, but also all of these other factors just to set you up for the best possible success while you're trying to conceive.
Yeah, I love that. And I think even cycle syncing, which we talked about in a couple episodes ago, would fit into this as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think too, like all of this stuff is just beneficial for you overall, right? So like it all is just really important when you are trying to conceive and like prepare your body for pregnancy. Um, and yeah, just having a well-rounded approach. So when it comes to pregnancy, can you share an example there?
Yeah, so when we're thinking about pregnancy, let's talk about managing iron levels as an example. In the research, the evidence tells us that our iron needs increase significantly during pregnancy to help support the blood volume as well as the baby's development. So, we're going to take you're going to have labs done throughout your pregnancy that is going to check your iron levels at different points. And if those levels were, below what they should be, then we might recommend an iron supplementation. But holistically, right, we're not just going to rely on that supplement. We also are going to bring in pairing iron-rich foods, things like grass-fed beef or spinach, which is leafy green, and pair it with vitamin C sources so that the iron, you actually absorb the iron better. So you may add a little like lemon juice over a spinach salad just to help with that absorption piece. And this approach is going to hopefully help with reducing some of those side effects like constipation that come up with iron supplements and some prenatals that have iron in them. So we want to consider, again, the diet, but also if we need a little extra help because levels are low, then we bring in the supplement. So again, here's a way where these two things can really play and tie nicely together.
Yeah, I love that. I think too, like just a reminder not to just rely on supplements and
Yeah,
the diet needs to be supportive as well. So I love
absolutely.
that. Okay, so then with postpartum, how does this approach help during such a demanding season? Because not only are you having the physical hormonal changes, but like you're not sleeping, you are potentially breastfeeding, like you're
Yeah.
stressed. So like I feel like postpartum is really important for this combination.
I agree too. I think, and the other ones are just as, but I just really think this is a time where they bode really nicely together. So, um, the postpartum period, like you said, is really demanding, and it really is about recovering and helping to provide yourself with as much nourishment as you can. So, in the evidence, it really supports omega-3 fatty acid, just especially DHA for brain health in reducing postpartum depression. So I'm going to like the study for that. Um, and nutrition comes in here like full circle. So from a holistic approach, like we want to address adding in those omega-3 fatty acids and foods that are going to help with inflammation. So things like wild-caught salmon, chia seeds, along again with like supplementation if we need to. And also just I feel like postpartum, there's so many awesome like cultural traditions here with like really warm, nutrient dense foods like soups and stews that are like more easy to digest, like bone broth. It's just so comforting, but they also have a lot of minerals like calcium and magnesium to help as well. So, like I said, I think especially postpartum where there's just so much going on, this again, nice, well-rounded approach can just be so huge and impactful to how mom feels so she can show up for her new baby and family.
Yeah, absolutely, especially because it can be a time where moms, like, kind of abandon their self-care, and think these are really not, like, simple, but, like, small little steps that you can take that, like, add up in a big way too, and I think too, like, the warm foods, like you were talking about, like, they're comforting, but I think it's cool too that while that's kind of like an intuitive thing, like, we all crave like those warm foods when it's like cold outside or you're not feeling your best. And knowing that that also is like really supportive to your body as well. I think that's pretty cool. So, when we are moving out of the postpartum period, so let's say, you're past a year postpartum now you're in mom mode. You got little toddlers, you're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you just feel like you're surviving off of coffee and kids' leftovers. Hi, it's me. So maybe even 2 years postpartum. I feel like that 2 year postpartum period is actually when you're like, okay, I'm moving out of survival now. Like
I
let's
think so
let's
too.
focus on myself now. Um, how can we combine these here?
Yeah, I think like what you mentioned is so relatable. We're just still in so much survival mode. I think most people do start feeling more like they have that capacity to take things on as they get closer to the 2-year postpartum period. So if you're still really like in the thick of that piece, um, don't feel guilty or like ashamed if you're not feeling like you're quite there yet. But let's start with like really small, doable changes. So, from an evidence based angle here, I'd really encourage people to try to have like protein and healthy fats and fiber. So, this like blood sugar balancing piece that we talk about a lot, that PHFF approach. So, they can be really like simple, easy like options that you can still grab with one hand. I love to like a quick Greek yogurt bowl, smoothies, those like energy bites are awesome to have on hand. You know, they can be easy and simple, but still pack, those nutrients in there that we need. And then from a like holistic approach, like let's talk about little moments in your day that you can like just like nourish your body and take those times. It might be that you do want to like get ahead. Maybe you're making those energy bites during like a nap time, or maybe when you are, having your morning coffee, like you can add some like collagen in there to help with your like tissue recovering and healing. Just thinking about small shifts that can be of assistance to you in those moments.
Yeah, and I think those small things too, kind of like adding on to what you're already doing,
Yeah,
can eventually snowball into bigger shifts. So I love
absolutely.
that. And I always talk about that with my clients too. Like we want to start small with the baby steps and
Yes.
gradually add on because that helps with not having the overwhelm.
I think it feels more doable too to just focus on one or two small changes at a time. And then when you feel really confident with those, you can stack other things in there as well.
Yeah, because I do think too, when we were talking about even just like social media earlier and like seeing all these different things that you should be doing, like it's really easy to be like, oh, I need to overhaul my entire life and do all of these things. And like you don't actually have to do that. The small steps add up.
They do. They do. And I think, again, if we're circling back around between this like overwhelm piece, like, do I follow the science or do I trust my intuition? It's not about picking one or the other. Like, science should provide our foundation, right? For based on what we know. But then it's like you should also trust your body and your intuition too, again, like if someone is postpartum, we know that like eating these warmer foods like does align with those holistic traditions, but there's not necessarily, like a study on that, but it's like a time-tested practice that complements other evidence-based strategies. So they can mesh and mold together.
Yeah, and I think that's really an important statement too. Like the holistic practices complement the evidence-based strategies, so they do work together, which I think is important.
Yeah.
So, to start to wrap things up here, I think again, this was such a really important topic, and I think that your approach and your advice was really actionable, very like easy ways for people to kind of get started and kind of like comb through the overwhelm, like we were saying. If people want to learn more about this or try to, navigate it for their trying to conceive, pregnancy, postpartum, beyond journey, and they want to connect with you, how are some ways that you can help people through this?
Yeah, so people can follow me over Unwholesome Huntress Nutrition on Instagram, or they can also check my website out, which is wholesomehuntressnutrition.com. I have several resources on fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum nutrition that dive a little deeper into some of those like surface level concepts that we used examples for in this show. So they can definitely access those on my website or send me a message if they have more specific questions.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, Caitlin. And we hope that you love this episode. If you found it useful, please share it with a friend, and we will talk to you next week.